Well, thank you everyone for being here. My name is Sean Garrett, and I'm the president and CEO of United Way of Metro Chicago. And on behalf of the City of Chicago, Cook County, and the 211 Metro Chicago Advisory Committee, I want to welcome you to the official launch of 211. We're really excited about today. So why are we here? I want to take you back to March of 2020. On that day, a number of businesses had to close down, and folks had their lives disrupted. And mother after mother and father after father had to, in many cases, for the very first time, deal with the question of, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to pay my utilities? And in one mother's case in particular, a friend of hers sent a flyer. And that flyer had 65 different phone numbers of resources that were great resources, but 65 different phone numbers for the mother to call. And as you can imagine, that mother's overwhelmed. I'm dealing with this the first time. I'm trying to navigate our health and human service system. What do I do? Where do I start? And that's not how this is supposed to work. And yet, that's the reality every single day for thousands of families all across our region. That's why we're here today. 211 is a way to solve that challenge. 211 is a simple, easy to remember phone number that allows individuals and families to connect directly with the trained resource navigator who will talk with them about what they're experiencing, what challenges are they facing, and what do we need to do to help them. They then have the most comprehensive database that exists in our community today, a database that's updated every single day for what's working and what's not working, and they're able to navigate what resources are available for that person, what are they eligible for, but also what other things might be able to help them. So if they're looking for food, they can get connected to the right pantry. But we can also ask them, do you need help with your utilities? Do you need help with your rent? Are there other ways that we can get you connected to resources? That's what having a live person does for us. But we know that not everyone wants to talk to a live person, so 211metrochicago.org also provides the ability for individuals to search themselves this robust database for resources on their own time. It also allows them to chat via web chat and text with those trained resource navigators to connect them to the resources that they need. Finally, 211 will, for the first time in our region, provide a comprehensive set of data around what needs we have in our region, because every single call, web chat, and search will be categorized, and we'll be able to see what types of spikes in different needs that we are seeing, what types of gaps do we have, and what are the trends. This is something that we are incredibly proud at United Way to be part of, and incredibly proud to be the home of, in partnership with the city, county, and so many others. So how did we get here today? I think it's really important to put in context that this has taken a lot of work. I just shared earlier with the mayor and county president that 14 years ago, 211 was set aside as a number for the state of Illinois. It took us 14 years to get here. But we got here because of partners. I want to thank our 211 co-chairs, my fellow co-chairs, many of which are here. Commissioner Kanazi, thank you so much for your leadership. Deputy Mayor Stapleton, thank you for your leadership. Evelyn Diaz, my friend and partner from Heartland Alliance. And Xochitl Flores, who's represented by our friend Dom from the county, who is the bureau chief for the Bureau of Economic Development. 211 is also here, though, because an incredible group of the advisory committee, a group that's made up of community leaders, business leaders, health and human service, social sector leaders, and a few of which are here today. I see Karen Freeman Wilson from the Urban League. Karen, thank you for your leadership. And then Kate Mayer, who is not able to join us because she's actually at an opening of a food pantry today, but we are here at the Greater Chicago Food Depository thanks to her and her leadership, and so we're very grateful for all that they've done. We also were able to bring 211 because of a public-private partnership. We are, in many ways, to be the leading 211 in the country because we have a unique mix of public-private partnership. We have over 14 funders now who have come alongside our city and county to make this happen. And I really appreciate Dave Blowers from Northern Trust. He's a United Way board member, but also an investor in the 211 system. And so thank you, Dave and Northern Trust, for your support of this work. And then finally, I want to thank the pro bono partners who helped make this happen. You don't get to a stage like this without a ton of people doing a lot of work. And so Jenner and Block, I'm very thankful for Andrew Vail, a partner at Jenner and Block, been incredible partners through this work. The Res Publica Group, Unite Us, North Carolina 211, United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, United Way of Dane County, and countless other supporters who have helped bring this to life. We could not be here if it wasn't for them, and so thank you. Finally, I want to thank Mayor Lightfoot and President Preckwinkle. We've been at this for 14 years, but it's happening here today because of the two of you and your teams who helped make this happen. And from the bottom of my heart and from everyone at United Way, I want to say thank you. This is an important moment, not just so that we have 211, but so that the residents around our community have accesses to the services that they deserve. We have incredible partners who are doing great work all around the community. We all know that. And yet, if someone doesn't know how to get connected to them, that great work doesn't get connected to the people who need it. And because of the two of you, your teams, and all the others in this room today, we have the opportunity to now have the best 211 in our country. And we're really proud of that opportunity and look forward to working with you as we operate this over the coming weeks, months, and years ahead. And so thank you very much to both of you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Lightfoot.
I saw somebody motioning in a crowd that you have to speak up so that people can hear. That's usually not a problem for me, but if you can't hear me in the back, raise your hand. I want to, before I get into my prepared remarks, I really want to kind of put this moment into, I think, an important context. One of the things that we learned very clearly during the pandemic is that food insecurity and hunger and all the other social issues that come from that is a real issue here in our city, and I suspect also in the county. When we went into communities talking about COVID, talking about testing, talking about getting people connected up to high quality, affordable medical care, what we heard resoundingly in many of those communities is, hold up, we need food. We need other social supports before we can talk about any of these other issues. And Sean is right. We have more money in this time to do good for our people, to heal long, simmering wounds, but people don't know about it. And we got to figure out the best way for us to communicate so that people can get connected up to the things that they need. Both the city and the county have done remarkable things to stand up programs and resources and initiatives, but it's all for naught if people don't know in a simple way how to access those resources. And that's why I think I'm so excited about being here today to launch finally, 14 years in the making, which is a little stunning to think about, but we are here. And we are here because of the partnership of the city and the county. We are here because of the partnership with our philanthropic community, and we are here because of the generosity of our business community. This is everything that is needed to create the village, to harness the power of government, philanthropy, and business to really be there for our residents that are most vulnerable and most in need. You heard from Sean Garrett. United Way, under his leadership, has just flourished and grown and been an invaluable partner for us. So thank you so much, Sean, for everything that you and your team do. You'll hear in a moment from Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle, and I want to underscore again that this launch could not have happened without the partnership between the city and the county. We have come together in many other ways, some of which have been visible, some of which are not. But we are working coordinated in a coordinated fashion, I think better than we have ever historically, and we're going to continue to build on those opportunities for the city and the county to collaborate. DFSS, Department of Family and Support Services Commissioner Brandy Kanazi, her people in some ways, will be the major beneficiaries of this streamlined 211 service to help us be able to get to the people quickly, efficiently, with what they need by having one source channeling those requests for service. Thank you to Cook County Commissioner Alma Anaya, who's joining us. Also, thank you to Alderman Jim Kappelman. I've often said, and I believe it to be true, that he's the conscience of our city council. He's been a leader on so many issues. Of course, it arises from his background in the ministry. It arises from his background as a social worker. But this man has a heart for the people like few others, and we are so grateful and lucky to have his leadership, not only in city council, but in our city. We together are revolutionizing our local systems of care. There are many helping hands throughout all of Cook County ready to assist residents and communities who need support. And you heard about some of them from Sean. But oftentimes, the ones who need the support the most can't find those helping hands. Navigating the complex system of social services can be a burden, particularly when you're in immediate need. You need a quick solution to your immediate problems, and that's what this 211 system will do. In my office, staff members can attest to the frustration that we hear from residents in need of services, but they don't know where to begin, or they've already tried one phone number or another, and that number still hasn't brought them the relief that they've needed. So this issue became front and center, as I said, during the pandemic. And while all systems have been talked about for some time, the issues arising from a pandemic sharpened our collective focus and our resolve to get this done once and forever. Recognizing this issue, one of the key recommendations of our cities and our Chicagoland's COVID-19 Recovery Task Force was to stand up this 211 system. And we are here today to say, mission accomplished. As you know, this wasn't a novel idea. And there have been previous attempts to launch 211 in Chicago. Sean showed us a picture that he took with Governor Quinn 14 years ago, where there was an announcement about a statewide 211. But regardless of what happened in the past, we're here and looking forward and very excited to launch this system. I'm thrilled that our administration, through a partnership with the county and United Way, are finally launching this 211 system. Starting today, and truthfully, it's been a couple days in operations, residents across the county, including Chicago, will be able to simply dial 211 to be connected with trained, empathetic resource navigators. 211 is free, ladies and gentlemen, free, so please use it. And it can help you if you need access to food, housing, utility payment assistance, health care, transportation, child care, employment services, mental health services, disaster information, and so much more. All of these unique programs and initiatives have been stood up by government, county, and city, but as I said, we've got to funnel it together to make sure residents know about it and are able to access it when they need it. So 211 on your phone, and you can also text 898-211, or you can visit 211metrochicago.org. That's 211metrochicago.org. Help is available 24/7, 365 days a year, in English and in Spanish. And note that for emergencies, residents should still continue to call 911. For all non-emergency city services, such as infrastructure services and repairs, residents can continue to call 311. But for everything else, please avail yourself of this important tool called 211. This is a win not only for our residents, but for the many social service and healthcare providers across the county and the city who similarly struggle to find all the resources that they need for their clients who are calling them for assistance. And rather than spend time and effort trying to track down and record information that can quickly go out of date, everyone, from residents, from service providers, can simply call 3 digits, 211. This is the latest program that my administration is standing up as part of our Chicago Recovery Plan to help individuals recover from the pandemic by facilitating access to the resources they need. To that end, we are also funding on-the-ground resource navigators in high-need communities across the city through our Community Health Response Corps to add an extra layer of in-person assistance. The 211 system can connect residents to these navigators and a wide variety of other Chicago recovery plan resources, as well as many other resources that exist in a city and a county. Let me also just give a shout out to our newest program that we brought online just this week. You know that we have been helping folks who have been suffering from fines and fees burden placed upon the city going back to the 90s. We've lifted that up and made sure that there's a way that people can get their driver's license, their cars, and get back into the economy. We also launched 2 years ago our utility billing relief program. So we ended the practice of shutting people off from an essential human services of water, but we also gave them a way to wash away their old debt. And just this week, we launched a new program for those who are suffering and languishing in administrative courts. If you're a business or you're a property and you've got old debt, just like with fines and fees, just like with water, we're giving you relief, and that information will also be available on 911. Already, we've served thousands of people in administrative hearings relief to the tune of $3 million in 9 days and counting. This is the work that we must be about as government servants to make sure we lift the burden of debt and financial insecurity off of our residents, and that we provide them with the needed services they need in the most accessible way possible. So I'm proud of the work that we have done across city, county, and state. As I said before, and it remains true, we have more money and resources in this moment to do good. We've got to make sure that we band together, that people in need know about it, and that we push those services and resources to the people who are most in need. So again, I'd like to thank the city and the county. I'd like to thank President Preckwinkle, and in particular, her Bureau of Economic Development, DFSS Commissioner Brandy Kanazi, Sean Garrett, and the United Way team, our philanthropic partners, and finally, the members of the 211 Advisory Council, including many service providers and community organizations that are on the front lines every single day doing service delivery. This is a benefit to them as well. Now, I'd like to welcome up Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. I need to remove my little platform because I'm a little vertically challenged, and as you know, she is not.
Why don't we just put it in the thing? Never mind. Okay. Good morning. So let me acknowledge first our other speakers. I want to thank Sean Garrett and Mayor Lightfoot, Commissioner Anaya, Alderman Kappelman, with whom I served, and thank you for your service. I understand you're retiring, so blessings. And Jim Conwell from the Greater Chicago Food Depository. I'd like to recognize and acknowledge Sochi Flores, our Economic Development Bureau Chief, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this morning, and her deputy, Dominic Tassi, who leads our efforts in Cook County, so thank you. I'm grateful to my staff for their good work. However, the truth is that the critical actor here today is Sean Garrett. You know, I remember when I first met Sean, when he came back to Chicago from Charlotte, and he talked about, I think, 211 in that conversation. That was a number of years ago. And it's really through his leadership, that we're here today. So thank you, and thank you everybody in United Way. We're all grateful. I'd also like to extend my gratitude to the Greater Chicago Food Depository, which is a wonderful regional partner in countless efforts. Like the Chicago Food Depository, I believe that food is a basic human right. And yet, 1 out of 5 households in Chicagoland are experiencing food insecurity. 1 out of 5, that's 20%. With that in mind, where would our region be without the ongoing and tireless efforts to end hunger? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the Greater Chicago Food Depository. You know, as you've heard, today is historic. Initial conversations about a comprehensive information and referral system for health and social services started more than a decade ago. Needless to say, today is long overdue, and a lot has happened since then, including the global pandemic, which clearly magnified the need for this vital service. 211 now makes the connection between our community partners, local resources, city and county services stronger. It will enhance accessibility with the many services that we provide at and within Cook County. And it becomes the place to start when residents are looking for non-emergency services and support, whether it be for elders or youth, for employment services or behavioral or physical health resources. Allow me to put in context the immediate power and potential of 211. Do you need assistance finding a meal this evening? Are you looking for transitional housing? Are you seeking assistance or help with your upcoming rent? Are you a veteran and happen to have veteran-related questions? Are you searching for assistance related to child care? Who can you call? You've got it, 211 for each of those questions. These are real-life challenges for many of our residents here in Cook County. And now, through this regional collaboration, we have another real-life solution. 211 is an historic milestone for all of Cook County, and I look forward to seeing the ways in which this new service will assist our residents. And now, I'd like to bring up Jim Kappel.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I moved to Chicago as a Franciscan friar, and I didn't want to be a friar. I wanted to be a social worker. And my very first job in social services was with Heartland Alliance. Back then it was known as Travelers Immigrants Aid. I helped settle refugees from Cambodia and Ethiopia. Chuk Bang Nam Moi, for those who are Cambodian, who will be celebrating our New Year this Saturday in our parade on Argyle. This was during the 1980s, it was 1988. This is when the AIDS crisis was really devastating our planet, and Chicago was also suffering from those effects. And I had many friends dying from HIV and AIDS. And so I transitioned to another program with Heartland Alliance. It was HIV services. And many of my clients that I was serving were from the uptown community. Many of them also experienced mental illness, and some of them were self-medicating. Some of them were self-medicating with drugs that had them inject drugs, so that's how they contracted HIV, and they were experiencing homelessness. Needless to say, all this work I did with Heartland Alliance was all centered in the uptown community, and I got to know the area social services well. You had to, because that's the way you advocated for your clients. You had to know all the services. And later on, I had a job at Northwestern, working with people who were dying, worked in their hospice program. And again, you had to know all the social services. At Northwestern, we had this book. It was this precious book that we guarded. It was called the Blue Book. The Blue Book was this book that listed all the different social services. And we guarded this book because it was something, it helped us connect our clients to needed services, desperately needed services. So I knew a lot of the social service agencies throughout the city of Chicago. I say all that because at the time I was elected, I was the only licensed clinical social worker in city council, and knowing all those social services, I still did not know enough to help those people who walked inside my door. Because the fact of the matter is, things change. Social services change. We get new social services. We have other social services that unite with other programs. It's hard to know all the different social services in a given area. And when we have people come into our ward office in desperate need, and some of the awful stories we've heard, cries for help, it's so important that we connect people to the right resources. And it's devastating to them, and it's devastating to us when we don't have that accurate information. Now, there's 50 aldermen, and we have a turnover, and each time a new alderman comes in place, they also have to muster up this list of social services to help others, because we have people coming to our doors in desperate need of help. 211 is an absolute godsend. I cannot stress enough how important it is, and it's 24/7. I'm aghast. I wish it had been here when I was elected. I certainly needed it, and so did our residents. But it's here now, and it's going to transform the way that we provide care to those in need. And what I also love about this is that the operators will be able to identify areas where people kind of fall through the cracks. And that's important because we have very complex needs in our city, and we need to address those needs. So, and COVID uncovered a lot of them. So this program will do it for us. So I thank Tony Preckwinkle and our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, for pushing this. We needed it so badly. Thank you so much. And so I introduce our Commissioner for Cook County, Alma Anaya.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You are standing in a place that not only just the physical building, but I'm talking more the zip code that you're in is 60632. And I see a few nods in the back of the room. 60632 was one of the hardest zip codes consistently throughout the pandemic of positive cases. But it's surrounded by other zip codes like 60623, 6060809, and 29 that saw great devastation during the pandemic. And I say this because we can't, get it wrong. Community always takes care of community. Community always takes care of community. And I'm extremely proud that during some of the most devastating times of our city, where we saw loss left and right of not only individuals with their homes or potentially risking not having food, but they lost family members. That community came together because community has community and protects each other. But that's not to say that we don't need help. That's not to say that the support shouldn't be there. And I think that that's why it's important that we're here today to celebrate the 211. Just like many that have shared earlier, including Sean, about how important this type of resource is, I think that I just want to uplift that, because what we saw during the pandemic in these areas, in the south side, in the west side, in the southwest side, was absolutely devastating. It was very disheartening coming to a lot of the events and seeing the lines of people trying to get resources, the lines of individuals saying, I need food, where do I go? And the creation of partnerships that hadn't existed. Many organizations that started and kicked off. We have a lot of great resources here in the southwest side in my district that really saw the need and really saw that we needed to step up, and but again, that we needed that support. And I'm very thankful to Xochitl Flores from the Bureau, Dom, and Madam President, because a lot of the times when we weren't seeing different resources coming, they went above and beyond to advocate for the areas that were impacted the most. And I think that that is something that is extremely important to do. But this is a step further. The 211 is going to make life-changing resources available to individuals. We're talking about housing and food. We're talking about resources that will really help and could have helped so much more during the pandemic. So I think we understand and we know that the pandemic was hard, it was rough, but that the impact of it will not just stay, during those years. We know that the impact will resonate for many, many years. So this will help alleviate that. And 14 years, wow, right? Just think about that, 14 years, and where we can potentially be and what that beautiful vision can be of assisting people and having that direct service available. So I just want to thank all the partners and want to thank the Greater Food Depository for hosting us today, but also for their partnership. I'll quickly make some remarks in Spanish. Hola, me llamo Alma Naya, soy la comisionada del 7º Distrito del Condado de Cook. Hoy me alegra estar muy aquí, con mucho, ¿verdad?, estar aquí, porque estamos haciendo una celebración de un paso para recursos a nuestras comunidades. Hemos visto, yo he dicho tantas veces, qué devastador fue ver a nuestras comunidades, específicamente donde estamos ahora, ver tanta pérdida de familiares, de trabajo, y los recursos que se necesitaban, que a lo mejor no veíamos. Entonces era muy importante que la comunidad en ese momento tuviera estos recursos. Y ahora con el 211 va a ser un recurso que cualquier persona puede llamar y recibir información y recursos directos a esa persona, a esa familia, porque nuestras comunidades necesitan ese apoyo. Aunque nosotros vemos que durante la pandemia muchas organizaciones y muchas personas ayudaron y pudieron recibir y unirse a recibir esos recursos, es sumamente importante que tengamos muy de frente que esta pandemia va a tener efectos desafortunadamente en nuestras comunidades por muchísimos años. Y es importante en este momento que tengamos este tipo de recurso donde una persona puede hablar o puede mandar un texto y puede recibir directamente por una navigator a esos recursos. Entonces estoy aquí muy feliz en celebrar eso. And I began to talk a little bit about the Greater Food Depository, but I am extremely grateful because they were able to not only host us here for some health task force meetings, but also partner up with us when we needed to make sure that Back of the Yards neighborhood received food. And we, till this day, have that partnership. My office still has the partnership with some other elected officials in the community. So I want to welcome Jim Conwell from the Greater Food Depository to give some remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to all of our guests here today, Mayor Lightfoot, County Board President Preckwinkle, and of course our friends at the United Way and the other incredible organizations that helped bring this 211 service to life, groups like Heartland Alliance and so many others. The Greater Chicago Food Depository is the food bank that serves Chicago and Cook County, and we do our work in partnership with a network of 700 different organizations and programs. So food pantries, meal programs, shelters, programs for children and older adults, and there's even more out there beyond our network. Chicagoland has no shortage of bright minds and big hearts that are working to help their neighbors every single day. But the truth is, so many of our neighbors who need these services don't know where to turn. Every year, my team here does some research to look at where the gaps are in awareness specifically. And almost a quarter of the people we survey who self-identify as food insecure don't receive any kind of help, whether it's from a food pantry, SNAP benefits, link cards, government programs, private charity. There's a huge number of our neighbors who could benefit from food and other services because food insecurity does not exist in isolation. But the biggest reasons they don't receive help, they don't know where to turn, or they might not be sure what they qualify for. They might not know physically where to go to or who to call. And the 211 service that's being announced today is a game changer for that, because it's going to be a one-stop shop for people to get connected to the services they need, whether that's food, housing, healthcare services, any of the things that could be holding them and their family back from reaching their full potential and living a healthy life in our community. So thank you to everyone who made this possible. Thank you again to the United Way, and Sean Garrett and his team have been incredible partners through this work, convening some of the brightest minds and the biggest hearts across our community to make this 211 service possible. And thank you all for being here today. Thank you.
So again, thank you all for being here. We're really excited about today. This is an important day. The fact that we are launching 211 is something we weren't sure we were going to be here 2 years ago, but we are. Alderman Kaplan, I want to say that blue book that you remember, that's something United Way did 25 years ago. It took us a little bit of time to get to the new version, but we got there. So we're excited to bring you the new version. And I want to end on this. I think today is in many ways what we just said, launches are important, but this is like the pregame show. What's happening back at our office right now is there are people who are calling 211, and trained resource navigators are working with them as we speak. And 211 is really important, but it's not the silver bullet. It's part of the larger ecosystem. And so just this morning, when we arrived here today, there's about 100 people who are going to volunteer with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. That's happening all around our city. We need to keep doing all of those things. And 211's job is to help make that a little bit more effective, a little bit easier, and make sure that the residents at the other end of the line, the mother that I talked about at the very beginning, it's easier for her to get the connection to what she needs. And so we're really, really proud of this moment. We're so grateful for all of you who are part of making it happen. And we're excited that the game started now. And families are going to be able to get connected, and that's going to happen every single day. And we're going to need your help, though, in getting this resource out to people. Because we're talking about it now, we need to talk about it everywhere we go so that more and more people use it so that those resource navigators are able to do their work. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Cesar from the Mayor's Press Office, who will handle any questions that folks might have.
Thank you, sir. And again, members of the media, Alejandra and I will be bringing down the mic. On-topic questions only. You're more than welcome to join the mayor and the city club for off-topic. But for today, just because of time, we'll do the on-topic. So we'll pick it up and set it up sometimes.
Mayor, a couple of quick questions for you. I'm just wondering a little bit about the accountability of this system, given the fact that most of the agencies who will be giving the final product to the people who are calling in are not working for the city. How do you gauge that, or what will you have in?
Well, as I said, really probably starting 2 years ago, when the first money started coming from the federal government, we reached out across governments, state, county, and city, to say we need to make sure that we're very coordinated, that we're looking and resolving any gaps. We don't want to have redundancies. We want to make sure that the monies that are coming in to each of us are spread in the appropriate places. So that's really kind of the foundation, in my mind, on which we build. And government can't do this alone, obviously. We have to have partnership with community-based organizations that have been on the front lines, let's be honest, in the last 3+ years. So a lot of the work that my administration has done is also to listen to their pain points and make sure that we're doing everything we can to help support them. So a year ago, in anticipation of ARPA dollars starting to flow into the community, we had two concerns in mind. One, how does it reach the block level? Not just with due respect to United Way and Metropolitan Family Services and Heartland. They know how to do this, but we wanted to make sure that we were getting dollars into the hands of community members who needed it most, that we may not be able to see from the 5th floor. So we held a first of its kind readiness summit to talk to a huge array of community organizations about what the opportunities were, what our expectations were regarding accountability, but to also listen to them about what they were going to need to be able to be part of this launch of restitching the social safety net. So I think it's from those partnerships and conversations that really accelerated during the pandemic, reach other milestones and touch points because of the federal dollars that were coming in, and our commitment as government leaders to work together, that we're going to be able to resolve, I think, any of those issues. But don't underestimate how important it is. I was thinking visually what this looks like. If you think of a word cloud of all the needs that people have across the city, whether it's housing, whether it's food, whether it's transportation, and many times it's all of the above and, all of that then funnels into this 211 system, a one-stop shop where you can get the answers, where you can get intensive case management to help you resolve all of the needs and then connect you up to those services. So this is such a valuable tool for all of us who are about the business of making sure that we're meeting the needs of our most vulnerable residents in this time.
And given the fact that I don't see anybody else, the media. Okay, well, quick question. I've been asked to ask this. Your thoughts on the Save-A-Lot moving into the Englewood, what was formerly the Whole Foods, and how upset some community members seem to be?
Well, look, I absolutely understand. For those of you who didn't hear, he's asking me the question about a yellow banana branded Save-A-Lot that's coming into the Englewood community to replace the Whole Foods. This is something that my team has been working tirelessly on with local stakeholders since back in June when we first got notification that Whole Foods was going to be leaving and closing. And look, no surprise, I've said this before, I've been in that Whole Foods many, many times over the years, prior to being a candidate, as a mayor, and you know, as somebody who likes grocery stores and still does my own grocery shopping, you go into that store at noon on a Saturday and no one was there. I mean, I kept the whole run of the store as a customer, and look, the employees were great, they were excited, they were enthusiastic, but you could see this was not going to be a long-term sustainable venture. Now, having said that, we worked tirelessly to talk to all the other food and grocery store chains across the city and urge them to take a look at that community, urge them to take a look at the lease, because ultimately this is a private sector business-to-business transaction. But we worked tirelessly with stakeholders and my team, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears over many months to try to get an option so that community would not be left with an incredible void that not only, I think, was the potential of exacerbating food insecurity in that community that desperately needed it, but also psychologically feeling abandoned one more time. And despite the fact that we talked to all of the grocery chains in the city that service different parts of the city, we had no takers. That is just the truth. And so we started to have these conversations with the Yellow Banana folks, who are a group of African-American young men, young to me, probably in their 30s, from Cleveland, near my hometown, that had shown real promise in a way that they were transforming the Save-A-Lots into valuable community assets in other areas of the city. So we made a bet with them, $13.5 million to transform grocery stores that had been abandoned into something that was viable for the community. Now, as I know now, you go into the community and you offer services, you're always going to have some concern, some doubt, particularly communities like Englewood, who have heard a lot of promises over the years, but haven't had a lot of people deliver. So there have been some rough spots, no question whatsoever. But I said to community leaders there, including the alderman, I've said to others, we've got to solve the problem of the need for affordable food options in that community. And I think that this Yellow Banana-led Save-A-Lot is going to do that. And by the way, they're going into other communities on the south side as well that also have food desert challenges that have lasted a generation. We've got to be about the business of solving problems, and that's frankly what the purpose of today's announcement is about. We'll continue to work with the community. I saw the CEO of the company recently at a Martin Luther King Day event, and I said, man, don't let me down. You got to make sure that you are humble, you go into those communities, and you listen, and you get it done the way that the community wants it to be done. So I have every confidence, mostly because I believe in trust but verify, and we'll make sure that we hold them accountable to meet the needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I don't know if Sean, if you want to take this, or someone with the food depository, but paint the picture for us, right? What is that need? What do those numbers look like, whether it's weekly, monthly, of services that are being provided, or just people that are seeking help in the community?
I can start, and then I'll let these guys jump in. Look, as I said, we know that the need is there. We're seeing it in our 311 numbers. And our hope ultimately is not only just to connect people up to the services that are available, but I don't think we'd be doing our job as government leaders if we didn't not just connect people up to services, but help them on a different pathway to eliminate the burdens, mostly which stem from financial needs. We've got to create more jobs. We've got to make sure that, as the county has done and as we have done, that in the moment we are providing people with cash assistance to help them overcome the challenges that they're facing. But fundamentally, we've got to be about the business of changing the financial fortunes of people in our city. Working, poor, working class, families like the one that I grew up in. I feel very, very passionate about the need that we've got to connect up these folks to real opportunity and hope in neighborhoods. And I'm a broken record about the things that we've done. It's not just Invest Southwest. It's not just the recovery grant. We've got to have partnership with businesses that see the whole city, south of Roosevelt Road and west of Ashland, because ultimately that's what we need to do. Families want to be able to provide for themselves. They want good jobs, livable wages. They want to be able to have access to high quality and affordable health care. They want affordable housing. All those things are possible, but we've got to do it in partnership with the private sector and with philanthropy. And so this is an important milestone on our journey to really take big, bold strides in ending generational poverty, but it's not the destination. The destination is to lift all of our people out of the crushing poverty that communities have suffered from way too long.
In terms of food insecurity, the Greater Chicago Food Depository and our partners have been responding to an elevated need since the beginning of the pandemic. And the demand at food pantries and meal programs is still higher than it was 3 years ago before the pandemic started. Due, of course, to the pandemic itself, widespread job loss in 2020, but even as jobs have rebounded, inflation has been the latest crisis for households who are living paycheck to paycheck. Many working households experiencing food insecurity. Someone else already mentioned it in this program, but an estimated 1 in 5 households in the Chicago metro area are experiencing food insecurity. That statistic is from a team of economic researchers at Northwestern University. I'd be happy to follow up with you for more details on that data, but I can also tell you from that same research, we know that food insecurity disproportionately impacts households of color and households with children. Households of color with children can experience food insecurity at nearly double the rate of white households. So food insecurity, just like housing insecurity and healthcare, it's a crisis of inequity, but it's also a crisis that has affected our community for many years and is still elevated. I would also just note before I hand it off to Sean, an upcoming challenge for food insecure households across our community is a premature rollback of the SNAP emergency allotments. So since the beginning of the pandemic, Link cardholders have received extra money every month in their SNAP benefits. Because of action in the congressional omnibus spending package just before Christmas, those SNAP allotments are going to end at the end of February, about 2 months earlier than anyone in Illinois expected them to. So we're currently working with the Illinois Department of Human Services and many other partners to get the word out about that and help connect families who are going to have fewer SNAP benefits to resources like food pantries and meal programs and other services that could maybe help them with their utilities. And that's a great example of how 211 can also help for a situation like this, when more families all of a sudden are going to have trouble making it through the month.
As many of you know, I was an alderman for almost 20 years. And to go back to the point that Alderman Kappelman made, in our aldermanic office, we had kind of our own file of resources in the community. We tried to make that as comprehensive and thorough as we possibly could, but I'm sure we missed opportunities to connect our residents to services that were available to them. So we're very grateful that we're going to have this 211 resource, because it'll be a resource for elected officials like us as well as community members. And, you know, for many folks, and I'm not an alderman anymore, but for many folks, the alderman is the first person that they turn to when they're looking for help from elected officials. So I know as members of the city council and as other elected officials, Commissioner Anaya, for example, will really be able to use this resource to more effectively serve their residents. You know, we in the county have invested a lot of our American Rescue Plan Act money in affordable housing developments, in our guaranteed income, basic income pilot program, in trying to help people with medical debt. And those are all resources that, although we've done our best to share them with folks, I'm sure there are people that we missed. And so we're very grateful for this resource to help connect people who are looking for the services that the county provides with access to those services. So thank you again, Sean.
Alderman Kappelman, I wanted to also add one thing that I learned from Commissioner Navarra. Our largest group of renters in the city of Chicago earn less than 30% of the area median income. Of that group of renters, 75% of them face extreme financial hardship. They're living paycheck to paycheck. I can't stress enough, 211 will be a godsend to these individuals.
I'll just add just one last kind of context for it. We released a report in March of 2020, right before we went through the pandemic, on ALICE families. ALICE families are asset limited, income constrained, but employed. These are folks that are working every single day and struggling to make ends meet. That's 40% of households in our region. And we can get you that report that gives you a lot of more context, but when we're talking about those who are going to use 211, we're talking about everyone. And I think that's really important for us. This is not a service that's going to be used by a limited number of people. This is our friends, this is our families, this is our neighbors, this is our colleagues, these are employees. Everyone is a paycheck away or knows someone who's a paycheck away for being in crisis. And 211 is about being there in that moment when somebody experiences that crisis and is able to get connected to an empathetic, trained resource navigator to connect them to their resources. And so I want to make sure we don't lose sight of, we often get caught up in all the stats, and those stats are important. This is a resource for everyone, and it's a resource that we want to make sure everyone feels comfortable with and everyone is able to access, because ultimately all of us will either use it or know someone who will use it, and we want to encourage people to do so. And so we can get you that report so you have more of the information, but ultimately that this is a resource for everyone.